The investigation into the potential murder of Matthew Perry is still in full effect, and now a bombshell in that two celebrities are suspected to be involved.
This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, two medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the ketamine queen.
One, secrets kill people like me.
Matthew Perry's tragic death shook the world, and ever since, the internet has been flooded with theories, rumors, and speculations about what really happened. But with the latest footage coming to light, the mystery surrounding his death is deepening. What does this footage reveal, and why are authorities suddenly charging multiple people in connection to his death?
That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network responsible for distributing large quantities of ketamine to Mr. Perry and others.
What role did Perry's assistant and doctors play? And how does this shocking revelation compare to the deaths of other beloved stars like Prince and Michael Jackson? Let's find out. Matthew Perry's death has taken a new twist, as authorities have now indicted 5 individuals, including Perry's personal assistant and 2 doctors, in connection with his tragic passing. The star of the beloved television show Friends, who portrayed the iconic Chandler Bing, was found lifeless in his Los Angeles home on October 28th. The cause of death, as reported by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner, was the acute effects of ketamine, a drug with which Perry had a long and troubled history. In the recently unsealed federal indictment, prosecutors have outlined a grim narrative. Matthew Perry's assistant, along with an acquaintance, allegedly conspired with 2 doctors and a drug dealer to supply the actor with vast quantities of ketamine. The court documents suggest that Perry's long battle with addiction was tragically exploited by those who saw an opportunity for profit rather than a person in need of help. The charges in this case are alarming. The indictment names Jasveen Sangha, referred to as the ketamine queen, and Dr. Salvador Plasencia, known as Dr. P. These 2, along with Perry's assistant Kenneth Iwamasa, are accused of orchestrating a deadly scheme to provide the actor with a staggering amount of ketamine, ultimately leading to his death. According to the court papers, Iwamasa injected Perry with at least 27 shots of ketamine in the 5 days leading up to his death, with 3 injections happening on the very day Perry was found dead. The scheme was carried out with shocking precision and disregard for human life. The indictment reveals that the defendants used coded language to discuss their illegal activities, referring to bottles of ketamine as Dr. Pepper, cans, and bots. In one particularly callous exchange, Dr. Plasencia reportedly texted another doctor mocking Perry by saying, "I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out." Ketamine, known for its anesthetic properties and increasingly used in alternative therapies for mental health issues like depression and anxiety, has a darker side when abused. It's a potent substance, and in Perry's case, it became a deadly one. Despite being a tool in his fight against depression and anxiety, ketamine, when mishandled by unscrupulous individuals, turned into the very substance that took his life. 3 individuals have already admitted guilt in this harrowing case. Kenneth Iwamasa, Perry's personal assistant, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute ketamine, resulting in death. Mark Chavez, a doctor implicated in the scandal, admitted to selling ketamine to Dr. Plasencia under false pretenses. Chavez reportedly secured ketamine by deceiving a wholesale distributor and using fraudulent prescriptions in the name of a former patient. Eric Fleming, an acquaintance of Perry's, also pleaded guilty to charges related to distributing ketamine, acknowledging that he obtained the drug from Sangha and delivered 50 vials to Iwamasa. The federal authorities have made it clear that this case is about more than just one tragic death. It's a warning to those who sneak in dangerous drugs that they will be held accountable for the lives lost as a result of their actions.
We're here today with our law enforcement partners to announce federal criminal charges related to the death of the actor Matthew Perry.
Martin Estrada, the United States Attorney for the Central District of California, underscored this point in a press conference, stating, "If you are in the business of selling dangerous drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause." The charges against Sangha and Dr. Plasencia are severe. Both face multiple counts, including conspiracy to distribute ketamine, distribution resulting in death, possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine, and falsifying records related to the federal investigation. Sangha could face between 10 years to life in prison if convicted, while Dr. Plasencia faces up to 10 years for each ketamine-related count and up to 20 years for falsifying records. As for Iwamasa, he could be looking at up to 15 years in prison, while Fleming might face up to 25 years. Dr. Chavez, who has been charged as part of a plea agreement, could spend up to 10 years in federal prison. The allegations against these individuals paint a grim picture of how Perry's desperate attempt to manage his mental health struggles was cynically exploited. The head of the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration, Ann Milgram, spoke at the news conference, highlighting how Perry, after seeking legitimate treatment for depression and anxiety, became addicted to intravenous ketamine. When legitimate clinics refused to increase his dosage, Perry turned to less scrupulous individuals who saw him as nothing more than a means to make quick money. Milgram didn't mince words, stating, Dr. Plasencia and Dr. Chavez violated the oath they took to care for their patients. Instead of do no harm, they did harm so that they could make more money. The autopsy report backs up these claims, indicating that the level of ketamine found in Perry's blood was far beyond therapeutic, closer to what would be used for general anesthesia. One of the most damning pieces of evidence in the case involves Dr. Plasencia's attempts to cover up the true nature of Perry's treatment. The indictment accuses him of providing falsified documents to investigators, claiming that Perry was receiving a controlled dosage of 60 milligrams of ketamine over 24 hours. In reality, Perry was subjected to much higher doses, far exceeding safe limits. The investigation into Perry's death has been thorough and multifaceted, involving not just the DEA, but also the United States Postal Inspection Service. Law enforcement officials worked tirelessly to trace the source of the ketamine that ultimately killed Perry and to determine whether it had been obtained legally. Matthew Shields, acting inspector in charge of the Postal Service's Los Angeles division, emphasized their commitment to preventing the use of the U.S. mail for distributing illegal substances or paraphernalia. The details of how Perry came to be involved with these individuals are deeply troubling. In the weeks leading up to his death, Dr. Plasencia reportedly sold roughly $55,000 worth of ketamine to Iwamasa and personally injected Perry with the drug on several occasions, including during a public encounter in a parking lot in Long Beach, California. At one point, Perry was charged $2,000 for a vial of ketamine that cost Dr. Chavez just $12, a markup that illustrates the exploitation Perry faced at the hands of those he trusted. The final days of Perry's life were marked by a grim routine of ketamine injections, facilitated by Iwamasa and supplied by Fleming and Sangha. Court documents reveal that Fleming, who shared a mutual acquaintance with Perry, initially offered to sell him ketamine at a good price in exchange for a fair tip. Fleming then secured 50 vials of ketamine from Sangha, delivering half to Perry on October 24th, just 4 days before his death. The indictment also reveals that Sangha was involved in other illicit activities. In March, she was charged with possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute after law enforcement raided her North Hollywood home. The raid uncovered a staggering amount of drugs, including 79 bottles of liquid ketamine, nearly 2,000 methamphetamine pills, and other substances. The case against Dr. Chavez and Dr. Plasencia is further complicated by their long-standing relationship. Chavez, who has built a public persona as a longevity coach and medical entrepreneur, mentored Plasencia for over 15 years. Despite this professional connection, both doctors are now accused of being central figures in the conspiracy that led to Perry's death. Dr. Chavez, who started his career as a medical chemist, recently promoted himself as a leader in regenerative medicine, even offering weight loss programs involving the drug Ozempic. His involvement in the Perry case has raised serious questions about the ethics and practices of medical professionals who prioritize profit over patient care. As the investigation continues, the shocking details of Perry's final days continue to emerge, painting a picture of a man trapped in a web of addiction and exploitation.
On his body like a warrior back from battle.
I was in that hospital for 5 months and, escaped death really narrowly.
Perry says he's proof that addiction can enter any home, any heart.
Meanwhile, some fans have come up with some pretty wild theories of how certain celebrities might have been involved in Perry's demise. Remember when Doja Cat deleted her whole TikTok except for this one cryptic Friends post right after Perry died? Matthew Perry was ritualistically sacrificed, one fan commented. A second fan provided more context as to whom Perry was sacrificed to. They said, likely the devil himself, and I think because he was turning on the cult. Andrew Bourdain got offed because he exposed how the cast of Friends chanted Hail Satan between breaks. When celebrities talk about selling their soul, they're not joking. This person went on to add, Perry was clearly trying to communicate something with his posts right before he died, and it was a total change from his usual style. Numerous pics of the bat signal, which is known as cry for help, along with eerie captions. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to tell you? I'm Matman. It's important to note in his last post, the picture was carefully cropped to include the moon. Full moons are notorious for sacrifices, and he died during Samhain, a period of time going through November 5th that is associated with blood offerings. Now, these allegations are pretty wild. The same stars who've been gracing our screens could be linked to something as dark as this. First off, we had Charlie Sheen's ex-wife, Brooke Muller, who was being questioned by the cops about her connection to Perry, though she hasn't been accused of any wrongdoing. One avenue that's being looked into, according to former CIA and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder, is mail fraud. As she said, there's been an explosion in D-rings sending prescriptions through the mail. Mail fraud is a federal offense, and the agencies handling the investigation into Matthew Perry's death, the Los Angeles Police Department, U.S. DEA, and U.S. Postal Inspection Service, are allegedly preparing to file charges against multiple people who may have been involved. Mail fraud is just one means by which Matthew Perry could have gotten the ketamine that was found in his system, Walder said, pointing out that often people will pay friends to give them their prescription. Either way, no murder charges are expected to be filed, as Perry is presumed to have taken the ketamine himself. The whole 9 Yards actor was reportedly receiving ketamine treatments around the time of his death, but an autopsy ruled out that the D he'd taken could have been from his last treatment, which reportedly took place a week and a half before his October 28, 2023 passing. Matthew Perry admitted to having abused ketamine in his memoir Friends, Lovers, and The Big Terrible Thing, which came out a year before he died. He described it as feeling like he'd been hit in the head with a giant happy shovel and said they might as well have called it Maddie. It sounds like the authorities are prepared to hold multiple people accountable for supplying Matthew Perry with the D that reportedly led to his death and possibly expose some of Hollywood's seedy D-dealing methods. So this B-list star, who had been very close to Perry for years and even shared screen time with him, is now embroiled in the investigation. They were seen in a photo together at a doctor's office known to prescribe ketamine. When contacted this week, the doctor's office claimed they never treated Perry and said, "We are not talking with any law enforcement about any cases at this time." However, the actress's cell phone could be a key target for the cops. A source told In Touch magazine, "I am 100% sure the feds will find the text messages between the two that will expose a lot of information that could help their investigation." Former CIA and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder told Page Six that multiple people could be charged, explaining how D-rings using mail fraud to send prescription medication have exploded. Intent is going to be the question, she said. They obviously knew what they were doing was wrong by D-dealing. However, did they actively know that by procuring this, it would kill him? Another startling development has emerged in the aftermath of Matthew Perry's untimely death, which occurred when he drowned in his hot tub due to the acute effects of ketamine in October 2023. According to In Touch, the LAPD has questioned a female celebrity regarding her potential involvement in the tragedy. They've been actively investigating Matthew's death, and she's a well-known figure in her own right. They first met during rehab, and their friendship was unexpected. A source disclosed in a report published on Wednesday, June 19th, although the woman's identity remains undisclosed, In Touch revealed she is married to an A-list star. The source acknowledged the difficulty in determining her exact role in Matthew's death, but emphasized that she denies any involvement. She's retained legal counsel and has cooperated in multiple meetings with law enforcement since they searched her sober living residence. The insider added she's remaining tight-lipped, but the issuance of a warrant suggests authorities have credible leads. She's deeply distraught regardless of her involvement. This situation could push her to the brink.
Police are now questioning Brooke Muller, Charlie Sheen's ex-wife, as a person of interest. Perry and Muller reportedly met in rehab. and stay friends.
Source continued that Matthew had been undergoing ketamine infusion therapy prior to his death. However, the ketamine detected in his system during the autopsy did not match his last treatment, which occurred over a week before he died. Anyway, as the investigation deepens, comparisons are being drawn to the deaths of other celebrities who were allegedly mishandled by those closest to them. Remember how Prince's death was linked to a doctor overprescribing painkillers? Or how Michael Jackson's demise was tied to the misuse of powerful drugs? Could Matthew Perry have suffered a similar fate? For context, Michael Jackson, known as the King of Pop, died on June 25, 2009, at the age of 50. His death was the result of acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication at his home in Los Angeles. The events leading up to his death were a culmination of years of chronic insomnia, for which Jackson sought medical treatment. His physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, administered propofol, a powerful anesthetic typically used in surgeries to help Jackson sleep, a highly unconventional and dangerous practice outside of a hospital setting. Jackson had been using propofol for at least 2 months before his death, as Dr. Murray testified. In the early hours of June 25, 2009, Murray gave Jackson a cocktail of sedatives, including lorazepam and midazolam, but Jackson still could not sleep. Eventually, Murray administered 25 milligrams of propofol diluted with lidocaine around 10:40 a.m. Jackson was left unattended after the administration, and when Murray returned, he found Jackson not breathing. Resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful, and Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. The official cause of death was acute propofol intoxication, with the use of benzodiazepines as a contributing factor. Soon, Conrad Murray was arraigned before the court and charged with voluntary manslaughter. The physician pleaded not guilty and told the press, "I have done all that I can do to help the police. I told the truth, and I have faith the truth would prevail." Murray's trial lasted for 6 weeks, with the jury given an extra 2 days to deliberate on the matter. On the 29th of November 2011, Murray was convicted and sentenced to 4 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
The prosecution argued that it was Murray's injections that caused the icon to lose his life and therefore pushed for a stiffer punishment. However, the doctor's defense argued that he should be put on probation instead of prison because he had no criminal record. As expected, the 4-year sentence angered the family and fans as they thought that Conrad deserved worse punishment than what was handed to him. The rumor mill then went into overdrive with a million explanations and theories about MJ's passing. One prominent theory surmised that MJ was eliminated on purpose, and the doctor was in on the act all along. One person commented on it saying, "It's sad that a person can become nothing more to people than a dollar sign." This man's whole life he was used by so many, even people he loved and trusted. And when they were almost through with him, they labeled him a monster. So no one would trust him. And through all this, all he wanted to do was perform, make music, and help people. A second person added, "I do believe Michael Jackson's death was set. They wanted his music catalog because Michael Jackson was worth more money dead than alive. The world misses him dearly." Anyway, as for Prince, the iconic musician and performer died on April 21, 2016, at the age of 57. He was found unresponsive in an elevator at his Paisley Park estate in Chanhassen, Minnesota. The cause of death was later revealed to be an accidental overdose of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. Prince had been battling severe hip pain for years, a result of his energetic performances that often included jumping and dancing in high heels. To manage this pain, he was prescribed painkillers, which eventually led to an addiction. However, the fentanyl that caused his death was not prescribed to him. Instead, it is believed that Prince obtained counterfeit pills that were labeled as Vicodin but actually contained fentanyl. In the weeks leading up to his death, Prince's health had visibly deteriorated. He had canceled shows, was seen looking frail, and even had a near-fatal incident on a plane due to an opioid overdose just days before his death. Despite these warning signs, he continued to use the medication that would ultimately lead to his demise. The investigation into Prince's death revealed that he did not know he was taking fentanyl, as the pills he had were mislabeled. No one was charged in connection with his death. Unlike Jackson and Prince, whose deaths were caused by opioids and sedatives, Perry's death was linked to ketamine, a drug that is less commonly associated with fatal overdoses, but is still highly dangerous when misused. Perry had been receiving ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety, but the dosage he received in the days leading up to his death far exceeded what is typically administered in a clinical setting. Despite the new footage and the charges against those involved, many questions remain unanswered. What exactly happened in the hours leading up to Matthew Perry's death? Were there warning signs that were ignored? And why did it take so long for authorities to take action? These lingering questions have only fueled further speculation, with fans and the media continuing to search for the truth. As the investigation unfolds, it's clear that we may never know the full story of what happened to Matthew Perry. But one thing is certain, his death has left a lasting impact, and the lessons learned from his tragic end could help prevent future losses. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.